It's me. It's CVV.
I was wondering where SP stole that from. I was wondering where he stole that from.
That's right. It was from not from DDP at all. Rotating here. There they are. Yeah, I don't need these things. Yeah.
At least you have 4. So you have one that you can probably just give, say, Mom, thanks. I love you. I appreciate you.
I don't need 4 of them sitting here.
Right.
Krssi, I should give you one, give my mom
but see,
one.
I mean, hey, listen, I'm not turning it down. I mean, I live in Brooklyn. My zip code is 1.
What was I going to focus on? Was it school? Because I was studying communication studies at the time, or was I going to focus on wrestling school?
I got to shoot it.
I look great there. Wow. Jeez.
You had another question.
I
do. I'd say that's so funny.
Ring. Oh my God.
Yo, what? Oh my God.
We got a copyright strike from New Japan Pro Wrestling, so now we do stick figures for all of New Japan characters. Chris,
a little Buffy. He got
You're putting up a photo.
Get it?
What the fuck is that?
I told look, we said he's gonna do it.
Oh, could it be?
That is not Will Ospreay.
Ain't nobody reeling their gorillas.
Literally took a pile of shit and put it on top of his head.
That is excellent work, Romeo. My hat's off to you. Wow, you are an artiste.
It's like
I like his eyebrows.
See,
What's going on with this one?
Even the dog agrees.
He's got ununibrow. Like it's a unibrow, but not really connected. Like it's one on top of the other. Great stuff,
That's the
Romeo.
result of a really bad surgeon, because maybe.
Yes, that was the highlights from last week's episode of True Heel Heat. We are back again. We had 4-time Emmy Award winner Chris Van Vliet on True Heel Heat 144. And now we have a bona fide Wrestling Hall of Famer, the legendary Dutch Mantell on True Heel Heat 145. Producer, hit the intro. Hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for True Heel Heat 145, the holy heel turn. And on this edition of True Heel Heat, we will be discussing the latest wrestling news, including the fallout from Extreme Rules 2021, where God turned heel and helped Roman Reigns defeat the Demon Finn Balor. We're going to be talking about the recap of SmackDown with the first night of this year's WWE draft, AEW Rampage with Danielson versus Jackson, AEW Dynamite with the Brodie Lee tribute, Impact on Access, NXT 2.0 Raw, an update on G1 Climax 31, where is Bray Wyatt heading to next, WWE potentially coming to the UK for a pay-per-view next year, and much more. First up, I have to introduce the usual cast of characters. We have the beautiful, the lovely Miss Krssi Love.
Good morning, everybody. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Thank you.
Hey,
hello, Bill. How are you? I'm so excited. I wish I was with Mr. Dutch right now.
And we have the biggest heel of True Heel Heat, the candle maker himself, the resident True Heel alcoholic, top guy JJ.
Oh man, y'all know this is a big episode. I had to crack the mana at 11 o'clock in the morning. I had to crack it early. We got a legend in the house.
And like I said at the top of the show, I've been looking forward to this edition of True Hill Heat for quite some time. He is my co-host on Sportskeeda Wrestling on the Smack Talk. So I've been learning so much from him. I've been under his learning tree for the past couple of months. So I had to bring him to the True Hill Heat weekly podcast. He is a wrestling legend, a wrestler who made his way throughout all the territories as well as WWF. He is a legendary manager, a man responsible for starting up the careers of the Blade Runner, Sting, and Ultimate Warrior, The Undertaker, JBL, Kane, among others. He is the legend, Dutch Mantell.
Well, thank you, Krssi. Thank you. Hey,
We don't have any sound effects or anything like that, so that's for you, sir.
no drum beats or anything. Nothing.
No.
Firecrackers or nothing.
No,
Okay.
I make the
Hey,
sound myself.
He's been asking me to do this for a while, like 2 weeks, not that long. But and I don't do a lot of podcasts, but I would do this for you, Sid, because I have a lot of respect for you. And what I have respect for is your knowledge of wrestling, and what you know a hell of a lot more than I know. When somebody asks you a question like, who won whatever in WrestleMania of 17, I go, what the hell? Hell, I can't remember last Thursday, let alone WrestleMania 17. So, and if you know wrestlers don't know that minutia. They just don't know it. I mean, they don't even sometimes remember what town they're going to or what they need to do. And it's a chore for them to remember the finish of the match after they just got it in the dressing room 10 minutes beforehand. So, but that's what happens to you, and you folks wouldn't know anything about this, but I tell Sid all the time, it's from getting hit in the head a couple of 100,000 times. That will cause some damage and will cause you to forget a lot of stuff. So glad to be here. So let's get to it. Ask me a question. And I'll refuse to answer I'll invoke my Fifth Amendment right off the bat.
Smart move with us. Remember, everyone watching us live, drop a thumbs up on this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, if you want to get involved, this is an interactive show. If you got a question for Dutch Mantell, we're going to try to get to all of your comments in the live chat. But to make sure you get your question to the legend, Dutch Mantell, a super chat donation is the best way to do it. $1 or more, you can ask Dutch whatever you like. And yes, he has his Fifth Amendment right to refuse to answer it, or maybe he will. We don't know. This is going to be an unpredictable episode of True Hill Heat, and it's brought to you by our friends over at Warrior Wrestling and Powered 4 TV. A couple of True Hills that we shout out at the start here. Our top 3 conversation starters: Austin Hartsfield Brown, number 2 Jessica V, number 1, of course, the Negro Buck Nick Jackson. We got to also shout out Jeff Lopez, Jermaine Packman, Miguel Maldonado Jr., Matt the Misfit, and Hard Work Bearcat Blue. And Jeff L commented on NX325. It's the guy you can get your fake vaccination card from. It's Tony D'Angelo. And that was a quote from Romeo, of course. EBB commented on True Hill Heat 145 saying, favorite wrestling talk show of the week. Great work, guys. CVV is the best interviewer out there. Hope he's able to come back sometime. Love the discussion, everyone. And we appreciate those comments and all the True Hills who's supporting everyone in our live chat so far. But yes, let's get right to it and let's ask a few questions for the legend himself, the bona fide wrestling Hall of Famer, Dutch Mantell. Dutch, I always, we always talk down over on Sportskeeda Wrestling, so I don't really get to pick your brain too much, but I've been a fan of yours, like I told you before, since like your time in like WWF when I was just a kid, when you were Uncle Zebediah, but your career goes way back, and one of your most legendary rivalries is with Jerry the King Lawler. So and your partnership with Jerry the King Lawler as well. So how was it working in Memphis with, a guy that's considered a god out there in Jerry the King Lawler? And how do you view Jerry outside of the ring and outside of the wrestling business?
Well, he's a sorry son of a gun outside the ring, but no, he's a good guy. He really is. Working with Lawler in Memphis, it was actually the way wrestling used to work is, and all over, not only Memphis, but Florida and Texas, and they had their resident babyface, the resident good guy, and he'd just wait for the bad guys to come in, and then he'd get rid of them, and then he'd go on to the next one. Well, I'd been there a while, and Jerry Jarrett was the booker, and he says, I got an idea, and he said, I want to run, and I had the title. He said, I want to run Lawler against you. I says, okay. I mean, I'm not going to argue with him. But, and we were both baby faces. I says, and this is the way it's going to work. He said, we'll see which way the people turn. But Memphis at that time was red hot. We would show up in Memphis on a Monday night. They'd be anywhere from 8,000 to 11,000 people in there every Monday. Like territories used to get hot like that, and they would run till they had a reason not to be hot. Of course, the attendance would drop then. But and me and Lawler never even touched each other before the angle. We just announced it. Because I got on TV one day and I said, a lot of people want to challenge me for this title. And then I went through Terry Funk and Dory Funk and, Ric Flair and Austin Idol. And I said, but a strange name. And we did this in front of a live studio audience. And then I just dropped in there. And even I said a name that sort of surprised me was Jerry the King Lawler. You could actually hear the chemistry change in the room because people went. And now they might have thought, well, we might not see Funk and Idol and all those guys, but Lawler was there, so they may have had the feeling that they could see that match. But that was a match that you could tell right from the very second it was kind of alluded to that they were interested in. And we showed up in Memphis, and what a loud crowd. But when they announced me, I got a big cheer from half the people. And when they announced Lawler, a big cheer from half the people. I mean, Lawler wasn't used to that. And I could tell he didn't much really care for it, but that's the way it was. And he didn't fight it. But and then I went to the back and we had this match. And I mean, it was, and we went probably about 30 minutes in this match. Whoa. And Lawler is Lawler doesn't do a lot of stuff, but everything he does has meaning.
Yeah.
And he is the master of timing. And of course, for that time, I kind of had it down too. So you had two guys who understood what needed to be done and the best way to get there, and never had we never had even a mediocre match. There were always great matches. If you just judge by fan reaction, I mean, we weren't out there doing head scissors and hurricanes and all that stuff. If we'd have done that, that would have killed the whole thing. I don't know. We couldn't do it anyway because we're not that athletic. But we told a story from beginning to end, and that was the longest angle I had ever been in. It went about 3 months, but I only worked against him 3 times during that angle. So because we would space it out, and I think he beat me, then I come back and beat him about a month later. And it was strange that when I did beat him, he was asking for a rematch, but he was the champion. Usually it's the challenger asking for the rematch, but he was the champion asking for the rematch. And what we did the first time when he beat me, Jimmy Hart in their first time, but they attacked him. Now, the same people that were saying, you're a piece of crap, Dutch, now they were saying, Dutch, help him. And I made a move to go to help Lawler, and all the Harts guys just, Jimmy and all them stopped and looked at me. Then I just turned and walked out and said, hey, have at it. And then on TV that Saturday, he was asking me, why didn't you help me? I said, hey, I didn't make those enemies. You did. So it wasn't up to me. And the people understood it from there on out. We were two guys. And I was always like a tweener anyway.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me, why would you be a tweener? I said, well, and we didn't have that many guys in the territory. We only carried 16 guys as opposed to WWE carrying 70. See, there is a problem with carrying too much talent because you can't get to it. I mean, if you're that deep, actually nobody even knows who the third team is. I mean, I couldn't name. You probably how many people in the WWE could you name right now that you haven't seen on TV? You can't. You can't. Yeah, you can't name them. And if you had a football team with 70 people on it, you're never going to get to that 70th guy unless he's a kicker or something, because you don't have any used to playing. But anyway, we went about 3 months, and we sold out the Mid-South, which is 11, almost a 12,000 seats with chairs, which is almost a 12,000 seat arena. We sold it out twice. We didn't sell it out one time because we had a snowstorm. Damn it. That's what I hate doing things in winter, because you have bad weather. So, and when snow, I don't know if you've ever been down south, but when they say snow, it's like saying hurricane in Florida. Oh my God. You may not get but a half inch. Oh, they run around and empty the stores out. It's like, damn, it's like the zombies are coming or something. Oh, let's go get food, or we're going to starve to death. And it only lasts a day. The next day it melts. So, but anyway, that was my run with Lawler. Enjoyed it. And he's such a great ring general. And I am too at the time. I thought I was anyway. But we had no problem, and people understood it, and it was successful, but we never went back to it.
Smart. You left it while it was still hot there. Miss Krssi Love, you got a question for Dutch?
I do. I want to know.
Oh God, here it comes.
It's not even wrestling related. I don't want to bother you with that. I want to know, like, what's your day like? Like, when do you get up? Do you sleep in late? Do you make breakfast? Or do you just get up and have lunch? Like, what do you do?
Nothing.
Good. I would love to do nothing.
I wake up. Well, I'm retired now anyway, so
right.
And I wake up, and of course I get the phone and I read the news. Mm-hmm. Then I bitch about the news to myself because people won't talk to me around here half the time. And I do very little actually. And I've been needing surgery for a while on my knee. Mm. And I wanted surgery last year, but this coronavirus 19, mm-hmm. every time I was getting close to the surgery, we got to postpone it, because all of a sudden we're overrun with these coronavirus patients. And it's been postponed 4 times.
Oh, wow.
So, and I'm thinking, mm-hmm. how many heart attack victims have probably died from not having access to an emergency room or medical facilities?
That's for sure.
I mean, mine's just a knee. I'm not going to die because of it, but people have heart attacks. They gotta have immediate attention. So
right.
But anyway, I hate that. But that's my day. So and doing podcasts like this.
Okay.
Oh, I've only done one in about a year, and that was yours, Sid. So you'll owe me. So
I'm honored. Yes, I owe you. I gotta give up all my talking time on Smack Talk next week to you.
Yeah.
Top guy JJ.
I think just kind of want to just tap into your actual initial love for the business. Like, what was it that made you feel I made the best decision by becoming a professional wrestler and having such a long, lengthy, legendary career like you had?
Well, sometimes the old saying in wrestling, it's not how you get in, it's how you get out. Because you got to keep in mind now that during the territory days, they didn't pay like Vince McMahon paid. You were paid strictly off attendance. That was it. A lot of places even wouldn't let you, have your own merchandise or gimmicks that we used to call them. Some people, some territories, they kept that for themselves. So you either had a choice. You could either work there or leave or buy the territory. What old timer told me one time, if you don't like it, you got two choices. Leave or buy the territory and change it. So since I couldn't afford either one, I didn't do either one. I didn't do either one of them. But the territories didn't pay anything like WWE or AEW I hear now. They were paying. So and that's where the term came from. It's not how you get in, it's how you get out. Because you used to have to move like every year or so because you would get worn out. If you go into and this is when they ran weekly towns. Like if WWE ran a weekly town, they would be down to, say, Madison Square Garden, seats 20,000. If they ran that weekly, which is impossible to do, of course, but they would probably get down to 4,000 people. Out of 4,000 people in Madison Square Garden looks empty. And I have seen 6,000 people in there one time, and it looks empty. The old saying in wrestling was you could shoot a shotgun off in the place and it wouldn't hit anybody. That's when you have some really sparse attendance. But I didn't make the decision that it was such a great decision until I worked maybe WWE the second time, not the first time. Because the first time I worked WWF, I didn't make any money. A lot of guys weren't making any money. The towns were down. I mean, and the thing about this is what's never brought up is how you were paid back in the territorial days. Let's say, and you can figure this up for yourself. If you had a $10,000 house, it was the rule of thirds. The third goes to the promoter.
Right.
The third goes for expenses, and third goes to talent. So
that talent is so spread.
Well, even on and it's, they don't really have a certain percentage for the main event. They just guess at it. So if it's 3,000 PSA, $3,300 split amongst 15 guys, and I'm including the referee in there. So you just divide 15 into 33 and whatever average that is, say it's $300. But your first match won't get $300. Your first match will get $100. Your main event will maybe get $600 because they take from one to give to the other. Yeah. And it's arbitrary, whatever the promoter wants to give you. Because the old saying is the promoter got first count. And he distributed it the way he wanted to. And if you went to him and complained, he might give you some more money. He may. But it's not that he was giving you money. The next show they run, he just takes it from that gate and it's already paid out. And so there was a lot of mistrust between talent and promoters because nothing was on paper. Nothing was written down. No contracts were signed. It was a excuse me. It was a handshake agreement, which was reneged on the first time. The first time a big house would come up, and you had a lot of guys bitching and moaning, and so that being happy during the territorial days, I don't think existed even amongst the top guys.
Makes sense there. Awesome. But it's kind of similar to what I was hearing, what you're explaining with the territory is what me and Krssi was talking about yesterday with Dark Side of the Ring with Onita's FMW. And he had a kind of a shaky reputation on paying his workers there. But that brings me to a question about you, because a lot of, newer fans maybe, didn't catch your first run in WWF, not even your second run with Jack Swagger with We the People. Maybe they caught you on Dark Side of the Ring season 1. How did you get connected with the Dark Side of the Ring people, and tell us about like the experience about reliving one of the best episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, the killing of Bruiser Brodie.
I got a call one day, and I don't even know, from Jason, Evan Husney, who was my lead contact with Dark Side of the Ring. And he had this idea that he wanted to produce a series on wrestling and on some of the darker side of things that hadn't been fleshed out. And the first episode they wanted to do was the Bruiser Brodie episode, which was why he contacted me first, because I was there doing it. So I got to talking to him, and they actually finished the Bruiser Brodie episode first. And that was like their pilot, but it didn't play first in the series. I think it played fourth. It played fourth or something. But I think that's how they kind of got the show okayed from. And where did it show? What channel did it show first on? Or?
It was on Vice. I believe
Vice
the first
TV.
episode was
on
Macho.
Vice?
Was on
Match Made in Heaven.
Vice. Yeah, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah. But I think, and I narrated that first season. So they put me on. I was a narrator, and I was supposed to be the narrator for the second and the third. And they made 4 seasons?
No, they're up to the third season
3 right now.
Okay.
It's
But
been Jericho.
they signed an agreement with to help get it financed, because I don't think Vice financed it totally, but part of the financing went down to the Canadian Broadcasting Company.
That makes sense now.
Since it's a part of government, this is what I hate about government. They said no employee could be on the staff if they weren't Canadian. And since I'm not Canadian, since I'm not Canadian, they couldn't use me. And he said, I hate it, but he said, there's nothing I can do about it. I said, okay. And that's why I'm not there for the second and third and fourth seasons. So, and it paid well. So the Canadian government just screwed me out of about $70,000 or whatever.
And you know you could have asked for more money as the seasons go on. So
it paid well. It did. It was paid. I actually it was paid for what it was worth, because as it was gaining strength during that first season, it got up. I think the highest it got up to was like 450,000 viewers, which for Vice is like a Super Bowl. Now, I think some of the series later, I think the Owen Hart episode, because it was such a highly publicized deal, I think it did more, and some of these latest ones may have done more, but and it's been a very successful series, really, and it was a good idea, and it was the darker side of things, I think. And I did watch the one with Ric Flair, the Plane Ride from Hell.
Oh, God.
And who said that?
Oh, God.
Top Guy JJ.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
What an episode.
And I was asked about that, and had I ever been present when Ric Flair did any of his shenanigans? No. But I've heard about it for years and years and years. And where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
Always.
And the story I heard is I don't doubt it at all, because, and I've gone on record as saying, because he's famous for that, or infamous for that, and he's done it for years and years and years, in varying degrees. And of course, they said he got canceled, or he got ratioed, or whatever he did. And I said, I have no sympathy for Ric Flair. I don't at all. And somebody said, well, it's her word against his. No, it's not. I don't think wrestlers just say that he does these things for the hell of it, because And I said, if you believe that, I said, what if you let's take your sister, put her in the place of that flight attendant. Put your sister, or your wife, or your
That's what we
mother,
Mm-hmm.
or a friend. Put her, and why would she lie? She was at work, and
Yep.
and it really. And then Ric Flair come out and said, "Oh, it never happened." Well, Rick, hate to tell you, buddy, but yeah, I'm not doubting. I'm not doubting that it happened because I know Rick and I've heard all the stories, so there was no doubt in my mind that it happened. So.
Yeah, we talked about that. You can check us out on Sports Heater Wrestling. We went in depth the week that came out, and you dropped a lot of knowledge here. Before we get to a couple of questions that I see here in the live chat, of course, if you want to make sure your question is read on screen, you can send a super chat donation. It helps out the channel a lot, and it makes sure that we ask your question to Dutch Mantell. But we have a question here for one of our good friends, Pat. First of all, he wants a shout out from you, Dutch, because he's a huge Dutch Mantell fan. So if you can give him a shout out, and he also asks
$50.
There you go. Nothing is free. Friend.
In my later years in wrestling, I've turned to prostitution to kind of support myself. So, hi Pat, how you doing?
And he asks, what was it like working with someone else that we kind of saw their rivalry on Dark Side of the Ring, but what was it like working in creative meetings with Vince Russo and Jim Cornette together in TNA?
Well, Jim was never on creative in TNA. He was an agent because we may have been hit on the head a couple 100,000 times, but we're not stupid. You can't put them in the same creative meeting and expect them to cooperate with each other. But in TNA, they kind of got along. And because I think I was there, and you had two guys there running interference, like we kept them separated. We didn't let any of their segments overlap. There was no need for them to actually work together. But I remember the first day we told Jimmy that Russo was coming back, and he quit. He quit on the spot. He said, "Well, I'm done. Finish me up. I'm done. This be my last show." And then I guess Jeff Jarrett talked to him, and he agreed to come back. But it was very, very difficult because there's a lot of heat that we had no part in creating. All we could do was separate them. It's like two dogs that fight all the time. And but there came a point where they was literally almost speaking to each other, which was, they almost said hello to each other sometimes, but not quite. But it was very difficult. It was very hard to operate under those circumstances. And Jimmy's very smart. Jimmy knows the wrestling business. Vince knows the wrestling business to a point, I think. But you see, anybody who's gone through Memphis, I think, understands the Memphis the business a little bit deeper. Because when I booked, I'm a strong believer in stories and purpose and where is it leading you to. I mean, you can go in and somebody said, "Did you see that match? Wasn't that a great match?" I said, "Yes. It was a great match." But if they bring out everything they can do, what are they going to come back with? I mean, if they come back and there's only so many moves you can do. I mean, before they've seen it before or you hurt yourself. But if you got a story, you can drag that story out a lot more than you can drag out those phenomenal moves. So, and a lot of guys, they do that because, well, first of all, they can do them. And years ago, we had never seen those moves before. So they are impressive moves. But I was always a believer in stories. Because if you're reading a book, if you just read all the crazy stuff they do in the first chapter, what are your other chapters going to have? Yeah. And how are you going to finish it? I used to tell young guys, I said, "Guys, listen, if you're a rock band, you don't play your hit song first. you probably end with that song, and you build up. If you play your hits first, what are you going to play with in the middle of it? Mary Had a Little Lamb. That'll be leaving.
Time to go.
So, and I think, but anybody would probably tell you that. But in wrestling, see, we don't have a school that we can go to. This is why I always disagreed with how WWE had their writers. Because Vince doesn't want them to have any wrestling knowledge beforehand. He wants to train them, which I kind of understand that. But it's the kind of who you got training them.
Yeah.
I remember one time this guy was writing an interview for me, and I read it, and I said, brother, no disrespect, this is shits. He went, what's wrong with it? I said, well, everything really. I said, let me ask you, where did you work before? He said, well, the Utica Times Gazette Daily Journal, something. And I went, brother, being a columnist or whatever you were for the Utica Daily News Journal does not qualify as a wrestling writer. So,
nope.
And this is why you couldn't give them ideas, because they didn't understand wrestling. So if they tried to take your idea to Vince and Vince asked them a question, they don't even know what he's talking about. So they can't defend it. They can't even dissect it and kind of get them interested. So then you'd have to come in there. By that time, the writers probably mangled it so much it doesn't even make sense. And Vince, you don't want to give him mishmash. You got to go right to the heart of it and do it like that. So that's why I always hated how they got their writers. They were non-wrestling people in a role they didn't understand.
Now people can understand why you took my side with me and Rick's debate all those months ago with the Knies Mobley firing.
Let me tell you something. Rick's an idiot.
I'm going to clip that. To put on Smack Talk next week.
I love him to death, but he's an idiot. So, this is when you can tell a wrestler's really going to badmouth somebody. It's when they're talking. Say we're talking about Rick, and they say, "Well, hey, listen, I'm not going to say anything bad about Rick, but that last line that they're going to cut his heart out." So,
it's kind of like Onita. Me and Krssi were talking about when Onita was like, "I'm not going to talk ill about the dead," and then he talked ill about the dead.
You're being braced.
That's where it comes. I'm not going to say anything, but and then he beheads him.
Go at him. We got a quick question here from Romeo, our producer, saying, if wrestling never existed, what would Dutch be? A public speaker, a scholar, a writer, a politician? What would you be, Dutch?
Well, where I grew up, I'm writing my third book. I wrote 2 books. One's called The World According to Dutch, which and basically what it is a book of road stories that are true. And the second book was, I can't remember. Oh, Tales from a Dirt Road. I keep forgetting the name. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Getting hit in the head. I forgot the name of my second book, Tales from a Dirt Road, which is the same thing. And it's tales that I've heard or I've told in the car on these long trips to make them go faster. And so I'm writing my third book, and that's a good question. What would I have been? I have no idea. But I grew up, and a lot of people don't know this. I grew up, and I keep this as quiet as I can. I grew up in the tip of South Carolina, way up in the corner, and you go 15 miles one way, and you're in Georgia, and you go 15 miles north, you're in North Carolina, and it was like a little mountainous region. So if I hadn't left that town, I would have never done anything. But I left the town and went around the world, and I still have high school classmates writing me, and they're asking, how did you do it? And to tell the truth, I don't know how I did it. It's just something but I went into the Army, and I think going into the U.S. Army was probably the best thing that happened to me. Because what it showed me was there's a whole world out there to go see if you just go see it. It's like, why did you climb the mountain? Well, it was there. That's why I climbed the mountain. And it's the same thing with me. And then I had a friend that was in wrestling, and he kind of got me started, and I went from there. But that will be in my book. And of course, it's a lot of stories that are personal in nature that I've never, ever told before. And if you read it, or even if you even hear it, you'd say, damn, how did you get out of there? So, and which is, sometimes I even sit back and said, how did I get out of there? But I got out, and see, I'll be watching TV with my 10-year-old granddaughter, and Paris will be on there. I said, I've been there. And she said, oh, you've been everywhere, Robert. You've been everywhere. Shut up. I'm getting tired of hearing it. Oh, you've been to New York City. Okay. You've been to Puerto Rico. Okay. You've been to India. Right. I'm fine.
She'll understand when she's older.
Yeah. Well, she's 10, but she thinks like she's 18.
I get it, Grandpa.
Because I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, where did that little 4-year-old kid go?
Oh, did we lose him? I think we lost Dutch there.
We are live, pal.
We're live, pal. We'll get Dutch back in here for sure. A couple of comments we got to go through. Heels Rules saying Dutch is a legend and incredibly insightful. Tony Khan should hire you, sir. There he goes. There he is.
You know, and this is talking about Rick. Remember when you remember when my internet dropped out? Remember when my internet dropped out a while back? Well, if you pay your bill, yeah, I haven't forgot that, Rick.
He blamed Rick.
And the internet drops out sometimes that's why I hate my neighbor. The neighbor changed his password, and we hadn't. Oh. And we hadn't got along since then. So.
Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. When I get it, I throw rocks at him now when I see him, you know.
Smart move. We got a question here from EVB Dutch. He says, does Dutch keep up with current wrestling and any wrestlers currently that you're fond of?
Well, the only wrestling I keep up with is what I'm required to. I keep up with SmackDown. And it's almost like if you make your living doing something, you don't want to go back and stay in it. So
dive all the way in.
Up till I started watching SmackDown with Sid and Rick. So I hadn't watched any wrestling. I just read some wrestling headlines, and I hadn't kept up with any of it. That's why I ask Sid sometimes, Sid, catch me up on this guy. Or catch me up on this guy or that one, because I don't know. So even during the draft, they had what's that group I asked you about, the New Deal or the New Rap or what was it?
Hit Row.
The Hit Row.
Yeah.
That's the first time. When I saw their name, I said, hell, I've never even heard of them. Yeah. And the other guy, which I had heard of, Austin Theory, I'd heard of him. Mm-hmm. But so that's about it, I guess.
Oh, we got a couple more questions that I can get to here. Let me see here. We got the Nick Jackson asking, who were some of Dutch's favorite opponents to work with?
Well, Lawler was one, and you know, a guy that you never hear a lot about, I mean, on a national scale, was probably one of the best in-ring workers I'd ever been around, was Brad Armstrong. So if you ever watched him, he was so smooth, and his stuff looked so good. And what I think, are you familiar with who I'm talking about?
Yeah, me and Romeo, the producer, we actually been watching old school WCW, so we've been seeing a lot of Brad Armstrong in there.
Yeah, well, he was really, really good. And what held him back was he was one of the funniest guys in the dressing room. And he would before the matches or after, he had a routine going, and he was funny. But you put him on camera, in front of a camera, he'd freeze up. And then he would look like he would be so dry. And I don't know why he couldn't come out of that shell. But if they could have captured some of his stuff in the dressing room when he was relaxed, you know, he was really, really good. And there was a lot of other people I really liked to work with. Lawler I brought his name up. The Puerto Rican guys that were kind of easy to work with, if you could keep from getting killed by the fans. See, when I went down to Puerto Rico the first time, I thought that was a company that had been. This is how much I knew about wrestling. You know, I'd being ignorant. I thought they'd been in business for 20 years. I didn't know they just started up 2 years earlier. And I went down there, and I was the first heel that went down who trash talked the island. Puerto Ricans are very nationalistic about their island and their country, even though it's not a country, but they think it is. But you say anything about Puerto Rico or Puerto Ricans, oh my God. You know, I used to go out on the street and they say, oh, sucio, like dirty is in Spanish is sucio. Sucio, you know, and that's how I learned Spanish, part of it. But you always learn the bad words first. It's like, hijo de puta. You know, I thought that was like a term of endearment till somebody told me what it meant. It was like, son of a bitch. And then they'd say something else. And I thought it was because of my great athletic wrestling prowess. You know, I was so good. Little did I learn that not only did they hate me, they really hated me. And to tell you how strong that heat was, I could go out on the street and put my glasses on, and my beard was a lot shorter then. You know, I looked like a tourist. They wouldn't bother me. When I put that cowboy hat on, which I found out one night when I was with Abdullah the Butcher about 1 o'clock in the morning, I put that hat on, I couldn't walk 3 steps. And when I finally said, I need to get out of here, is when I saw like a rock land at my feet. I said, I need to be leaving here. Because I said this about Puerto Rico. When I went down there, they thought the space program was fake and wrestling was real. Oh my God. They would literally, and I've been in several riots down there. We were going for this match at Roberto Clemente, sold out. And this is not a knock on Puerto Rican people, but they drink like fish. They do. Of course, I did too when I was down there. So we went to the ring, and it was supposed to be a barbed wire match, and they put it on first. They put it on last. They usually don't put the main event on last. And when I saw that, what they were doing, I asked one time, why would you people be so stupid as to put the main event on fourth? That's what they used to do. Till they told me, well, Puerto Ricans like to drink, and if we wait to last to put on that match, the people will be so drunk that they'll kill you. And it took me about 2 months to figure out how smart they were, because they would. So one night they did put us on last, and and we fought going to the ring. The people we had, it was such a hot angle. We fought going to the ring. And then on the way back, I got in the ring and I looked down and I told my partner, Frankie Lane, I said, you know, in about 15 minutes, we're going to go back right through those people that we just come in from. And they were rough then. And I said, and we lost the match and went out and we fought all the way to the back. I mean, not standing. We were moving and fighting and punching and kicking. And that night, we finally left the building at 2:30 in the morning because the people waited outside for us. They waited so long that the cops quit on us and left. They said, we're going home. We're not staying with you no more. They told us, you're on your own, guys. So, and we finally went out, and there's still about 30 of them out there. And as we drove off in the car, we could hear rocks hitting the car. So it was very dangerous down there in those days.
I definitely wanted to hear a Puerto Rico story, and you just told it all. Thank you, Dutch, for that. Remember, guys, we got our most people watching right now. Remember to drop a thumbs up on this video. You can share it on all your favorite social media platforms. If you're new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified. And if you want your question read out to Dutch, you can send a super chat donation. We're trying to get to as many of your questions in the live chat, and you have some good ones like Fifth Generation Carney, who asks Dutch, who would Dutch say educated him the most in the business?
Well, there was an old that I consider my mentor. The young fans won't know who this guy is, and probably a lot of the older ones won't either. But he was one of the smartest guys I'd ever ran across in wrestling. Not only then, but thinking back on the things that he told me, even now. And he worked under the hood. He was the masked assassin. Remember the assassins? You ever heard the name?
Yes. Yep.
Jody Hamilton was one, and Tom Ernesto was the other one. And Tom Ernesto probably smartened me up more about this business than anybody else at the time. Good guy. And he's actually the one, he was the booker, and he gave me my job the first time I entered professional wrestling. I started in Georgia, and I used to ride with him. Well, actually, I used to drive him. He picked me as his driver. But in doing so, that, you know, he would start telling me things. Do this, do that. And actually, it was my education in wrestling started about 11 o'clock every night. Because I was either riding with Tom or riding with some of the veterans. And I would get in the ring, and I would get in the car to leave about 10:30 at night, and we'd stop, of course, get the beer. I wasn't allowed to drink. I had to drive. Then they would start drinking, and I'd ask them a question. Excuse me, sir, did you see my match? Oh, here they come. God damn, that's what you call it? I said, well, yeah, what was it? It was a shit. It's horrible. Worst match I've ever seen in my life. Shut up. You know, who got you in this business? But then if they were ribbing, they were kidding. And then they would say, hey, kid, slow down. Don't do this. And don't do that. And what was the purpose of that? And they would teach me psychology. They would teach me not necessarily the moves I did, but why did I do them and when and what I should do. And if you listen, you'll learn. And I did. And then after that, they would come out later, not that night, but on succeeding nights, they would come out and watch my match. So they would critique me right when I'd get into the car. And you got to think about the first 2 years in the wrestling business is just, or 3 years, 4 years, is learning. You're just learning. You're absorbing, you're learning. You're absorbing, you're creating, and then you're executing. And then they'll tell you if you got it right or not. But after a while, you know you got it right when the people you get the desired reaction from the crowd. So that helped me a lot. But Tom Ernesto was probably my first mentor, and I probably had others, but he was the main one.
Learning something new today. That's one thing I didn't know who you learned more from. So keep those questions coming in the live chat. Of course, super chat donation are encouraged and appreciated. Helps out the channel a lot. And we will definitely highlight your comment to Dutch Mantell. But we got to get through what we missed a little. Rick Uccino messing with Dutch's internet. That's Rick right there. We need to. We're gonna take that. I'm gonna take that on social media and tag Rick for sure, Dutch. We gotta go. We gotta get through what we missed, and of course,
but let me ask you.
Yeah,
I saw Rick's first match, right? You saw it, right?
Yes, I did.
Now, who was nice about it?
You were very nice about it. Yeah, you were very nice about
it. I said it wasn't a bad match. It's pretty good, and and he just kind of took that and just flossed over it, Thinking back on it, it was probably one of the worst matches I've ever seen. But I didn't tell him that.
I'm gonna need the producers to have a whole clip package of all the times Dutch buries Rick, so I could save that and put it on Smack Talk next week. I'm gonna work on a clip package of how many times we bury Rick. We got to talk about what we usually talk about, Dutch, which is SmackDown that happened last night. It was the first round of the WWE draft. You had Charlotte Flair, the Raw Women's Champion, Drew McIntyre, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods of the New Day, Hit Row from NXT, and Jeff Hardy moving over to SmackDown, while WWE Champion Big E, Bianca Belair, Edge, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, and Austin Theory from NXT moved to Raw. You also had Brock Lesnar.
For me.
Why did it ruin SmackDown for you?
Continue. Go ahead. I'll talk when you're finished.
Okay, I'll go to you first. Brock Lesnar confronted Roman Reigns and planted another seed of doubt in his head about
my God,
Paul
really?
Heyman. Absolutely. Ahead of Crown Jewel, Edge returned, but Seth Rollins wasn't at SmackDown. He was actually at Edge's home and did a home invasion that Edge called Daniel and David, which happens to be, I didn't say this last night, Dutch, because I didn't know, but Daniel and David is actually the real names of FTR, who do live in North Carolina by Edge. So that was a nice little forbidden door term right there. So nice touch by Edge there. Becky Lynch cost Bianca Belair her main event contest against Sasha Banks. After the match, Charlotte Flair laid out both Sasha and Bianca, and then we had Happy Corbin beat Kevin Owens thanks to help from Madcap Moss. The former Riddick Moss is now Madcap Moss. Both of those men were redrafted over to SmackDown. Miss Krssi Love, you look utterly annoyed with what happened on SmackDown. Let us know why.
Okay, so first, we bring Hit Row. They're not ready for main event. They'll be lost in catering for sure. That's one. Then you take the New Day away from Xavier again.
You mean Big E?
Oh, Big E. Excuse me. You take Kofi and Xavier away from Big E, who is champion. Again, what is the point? What is the purpose? Why? It does not make sense. It makes sense for me. Because if the stories are right, the story will go where he's actually champion, where they can all be around him, per se. Then you move Charlotte, which is fine. I'm sure that was because of Fox. No problem. Great. Why do we bring Becky back? What's the point of all of this? Now we're going to switch titles because now she's on SmackDown. We can't have the Raw title on at SmackDown. It's just does not make sense to me, but whatever. Then you take Bianca and then you put Bianca on Mondays, where now Becky, I'm sure, and Sasha will probably then follows. The only reason I will watch SmackDown is because of Roman Reigns, who will probably lose at Crown Jewel. And then I will not watch SmackDown because this is all, it does not make sense. Make it make sense. This has been good for how long? Since the pandemic. And then now you ruin it with these shitty drafts. Excuse my language. It is very shitty. I was very annoyed with yesterday's episode. I did not like it. And I don't like where the rest of the drafts are going to go. And that's what I'm going to say.
Let them know. Let them know. I mean, the only part of that I disagree with, I think that Hit Row is ready for the big time. I was telling Dutch because Dutch wasn't really familiar
Homeboy
with them.
hasn't even done a successful title run. How?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't even had a singles match since he won the title. But their act is a complete act. They are the most main roster ready act in NXT, and they had their audition for what main roster promos you do, where you do the John Cena promo that everybody does, where you do like you're gonna have this match here and this match there and this match there, and they did well in it. And I feel like because Bianca goes over to Raw, the Street Profits, we lost Dutch again. See the neighbor doesn't like the rocks being thrown at him, so his Wi-Fi went out. But you have the Street Profits that are going to go over to Monday Night Raw most likely, with Bianca Belair moving over there. So it only makes sense that you fill in those slots with Hit Row. Hit Row is going to be that spot that the Street Profits had. Swerve Scott can potentially become Intercontinental Champion in the next year. I could totally see that happening. And I feel like the act overall, I don't say any individual person outside of Swerve Scott is really ready for the main roster, but the act overall is ready. And Top Guy JJ, what was your thoughts on SmackDown?
Might be a little different reasoning, but I'm on the same boat with Krssi. I really didn't like the show. And the reason being is, but the draft format to me was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like to make half the
You ought to
roster
heard
available.
what Sid called them last night.
They were dumbasses. Yes.
It was mind numbing and I'm not sure how many different cuss words I could use in front of Dutch, but I was completely annoyed with this show. And if you watched us during the watch along, you clearly saw why. To me, the first round, the whole draft was already ruined. Like, when you have Charlotte Flair get drafted to SmackDown, and the most obvious choice is to have Becky Lynch get drafted to Raw, swap the titles. You want to swap it, but no, let's keep both champions on the show. She's not available tonight. What?
Yeah, because she's going to be the number one pick on Monday.
Why? Why is this broken up? How do you break up a draft and say, oh, this portion of the talent is available this day, but this portion of the talent, just have the entire draft on one show then. Have the entire draft on one show.
Thank you. Make it make sense.
Put the roster.
No, then you're just going to get one network mad at the other and mad at WWE in the process.
They're going to be mad regardless.
It's a draft. You don't put this in a draft. You put everybody in the board and make them all available. You don't do this for a draft.
Maybe I'm the only one here that thinks like WWE because you gotta spread the wealth. The draft is easy ratings. It's easy ratings.
Everyone is available. It's a draft. It's a draft. You don't make half the people available. You don't make half the people available and say, oh, half the people is available on Monday now. That's the most asinine thing I've seen in a draft. I'd rather it be a bad draft with everybody involved than tell me, oh, half the roster is available on Monday now. Like I saw Happy Corbin drafted in round 3. What the hell?
Exactly.
Like garbage, straight garbage.
It don't make sense. It don't make sense. And you can wear your WWE hat, but it's still not going to make sense, Sid. You're the only one that it makes sense to. But if Corbin is in round 3. What else do I have to look for on Monday? Tell me.
No one else was available. Well, Becky Lynch didn't go. Becky Lynch is going to be drafted on Monday.
Becky Lynch was available because she came out looking fabulous, by the way. However,
Sasha Banks is available.
The women all look great last night.
They all looked amazing. Well, half of Sasha's outfit looked great. But, that's just, we can talk about that another day. But my thing is like, they're not available, but they still come out. They're still dressed. Everyone is clearly there. Come on, man. Make me understand this. Make me get to where, oh my God, let me make sure I watch Raw so that I can see the draft. I don't need to watch the draft now because I know it's going to be BS. That's just all I'm saying.
Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce both say the entire roster is here tonight. Why the hell are they all there if half of them aren't available to be drafted? What's the point? What is the point?
At least do like the old days and have everyone in the back. Everyone is just sitting there ready. Like, where am I gonna go? It's just doesn't.
And bro, truth be speaking, you should have just had the entire draft on Monday Night Raw since it's a 3-hour show. Have the entire draft on Raw because you can have 7, 8, 9 rounds on that show. Have 2-3 matches in between, and then who cares at the end of the day?
Thank you, Mr. Dutch. Thank you. Love you.
Dutch, it's dumb.
Can someone screenshot that and send that to me, please? Thank you.
It was a horrible process. And then I'm seeing who's getting drafted. With all due respect to some of these guys, come on. We saw Bearcat beat Keith Lee literally get drafted to the same show. It's what? What are we? This is a televised pick, and he got picked to the same show.
And then we have the people that get drafted, and they have matches. Why is Happy Corbin having a match and he's drafted, but we already know he's still there. They made it a
big deal with Happy Corbin being drafted to the same show. They made it a big deal with Bearcat Keith Lee being drafted to the same show.
Yo, didn't I bring that up? Sid?
You did. You didn't understand why they're drafted to the same show.
I said, I don't understand. I said, he's on the show and he got drafted back to the same show he was on.
Don't make it news to me.
Don't make it's on TV. It's a big deal. Come on. Draft was stupid. The draft was dumb. I'm sorry.
I've been saying the draft been dumb for a long time, but all you got to say, you're blah 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 blah. Trash.
You're stealing Sid's line. He's calling it dumb. That's all he could call it. You called it dumb last night, Sid. Now you're defending it. See how he is?
Because Dutch, I told you before, my wife gets paid by the WWE, so I gotta put my hat on. I gotta put on my hat, and I don't agree.
But then you
with
shouldn't be a true heel, then, friend. If you're gonna wear the WWE
this is the
hat.
true heel. This is the true heel point of view. This is the heel point of view. Exactly. Thank you, Heels Rules. Heels Rules said it best. I'm the heel today. But basically, why would you get Fox mad at you? Fox just paid you $1 million a year to have your show on there. Why would you get them mad by putting it just on Monday Night Raw? That makes no sense.
I think that happy with that result.
Yes, they were. I guarantee you, it does over 2 million viewers.
That's not an improvement.
That's what Fox wants, though. They want 2 million of viewers. I wish I was a WWE show. I wish they would pay me. They should pay me.
This draft was fucking. This draft was horrible. This draft was goddamn horrible last night. Like I'm not gonna sit here and defend that. Like the draft was trash. Like we have been given Raw. We've been given Raw its roses. We've been given pay-per-views their roses. But when this is dumb, this is dumb. This draft was dumb. This draft was trash.
SmackDown will now go back to not being a great show. It'll be like Raw in a few weeks. Guarantee. Mark my words. Mark it down. Mark it down.
On that show.
He is on. Our Tribal Chief is on that show, and guess what's going to happen at daggone Dirty Saudi Money? What's going to happen?
So,
now, Dutch, what was your thoughts on the draft?
I'll wait.
Hey, I don't know. I just, like I said before, I don't follow WWE, and so I've heard about the draft, but I never even checked the draft out till last night because I was required to. Right. So, and I had a lot of questions like Krssi and everybody else, but I don't know. I didn't think the show was that bad, but I thought the draft was kind of. I don't know. I don't get it. That's when they do something I don't agree with. I'll think about it, but I just don't get the draft. I mean, it creates some interest, I guess, but hey, it's their deal. They don't pay me at all, so I wouldn't have watched it unless I had to.
I think you guys and the viewers, because I see Anthony Mazzano saying I'm a flip-flopper. You were criticizing the draft at the SmackDown last time. No, I was criticizing certain moves, like drafting Big E without drafting Kofi and Xavier. And I'm defending the fact.
Okay, so we're agreeing on that part.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm defending the fact that it should be on both shows. They should, though, make it clear who's available on what show. I'm not saying you guys are wrong in that state, but to say that the draft should only be on the one show, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. You spread the wealth so you get 2 big ratings instead of one.
I like how you're stuck on that one opinion.
That's simple math.
Don't understand how dumb this draft was.
No, I do understand.
You're only stuck on that
because that was a bad opinion. That was a bad opinion.
The draft is stupid as well. So
what is my opinion on the draft? I literally have not said anything about the draft itself.
You're trying to give it logic. You're trying to give this draft logic. Like you're gonna sit here for a sport and say that half the talent is available for a sport, but the other half is available on the next day.
They should make it a pool. There should be a pool available on SmackDown, a pool available on Raw. The way they did it last year, where they let you know who could be drafted on what night, that makes more sense. This year, they just let it off to chance and let it off to, you just had to assume that, when RK Bro gets picked by Raw and then they don't respond by picking Usos on SmackDown, that the Usos aren't available. You just have to basically use your WWE logic hack. That's all it was.
It's a draft. How do I have to decide and figure out what talent is available? If they haven't been picked, they're available. That's how a draft works. That's how a draft works. If they haven't been chosen, they're available. How you gonna be like, oh, these guys are available on Monday? This isn't like the NFL where it's round 1 on Thursday, round 2 on Friday, and round 3 on Saturday. No, if you're available, you need to be picked. It's that simple. And if you want to give Fox the big ratings, give them the big draft picks. Raw is the B show anyway, so give them the rest of the draft.
And Dutch, what did you think about the home invasion by Seth Rollins on Edge?
It would have been all right, but I thought he played, like I said last night, he he played too strongly to the young girls, which I think I did not like. He's looking at their artwork on the walls, and I know that's to make Edge mad, but I'm thinking, no, man, don't go here. I mean, you don't have to go there. And he looked at their school packs.
Yeah.
Oh, I hated that. I mean, and I know what's my old saying, Sid, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that anyway. If you start thinking about it, and somebody, I think you brought this up, his door is unlocked, and they live allegedly in a mountain region, so your door's unlocked, and then he went in there. It would have maybe been okay, but I thought the attention paid to the young females in that family was way too much. I don't even want to think about it, tell you the truth. I hate that. I hate that stuff.
I didn't really understand it until you explained it last night. That's why I had to have you talk about it here. That was a little bit much. It was a little bit much. I do agree with you there.
I never thought about that until he just said that. Like, why was he so fascinated? And then he has a daughter as well. So it would make it make sense, people. Hello. If I just had a brand new baby daughter, why would I want to now go and look at this man's little girls? Like, go in their room, go in their bathroom, see, like, let me know what kind of toothpaste they use. You know, put toothpaste all over their mirror. Like, make it like, you know, things like that. Go and see where it's in the basement. Like, go just like, I don't know if you want to destroy stuff. I guess they didn't have the budget to do all that. But if you're gonna do that, like, let's do it. Come on.
No, because that was his actual house. If it wasn't his actual house, he would have messed stuff up. It was his actual house. Outside of SmackDown this week, we missed Extreme Rules 2021, which we previewed on True Hill Heat 144. Roman Reigns defeated the Demon Finn Balor to retain the WWE Universal Championship, thanks to the rope breaking out of nowhere after the Demon rose from the dead. And then Roman looked up to the heavens and said, "Thank you." So God has returned, ladies and gentlemen. God has returned, and he has turned heel. He has aligned himself with the tribal chief Roman Reigns, and he helped him win.
Sid, you're going to hell for saying this.
I need to make
You're going straight to hell. You're not even going through the portal. I mean, you're just going straight to hell. God has turned heel.
He did. How did the rope break? The rope had to break because God struck down a demon. The demon is against us, Dutch. The demon is evil. God has really turned babyface on the demon, but we didn't realize that. We think the demon is a babyface, but yeah, he is the real heel in this whole situation. We also had Sasha Banks return to cause a DQ finish to Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. We had Damian Priest beat Sheamus and Jeff Hardy in a triple threat match to retain the United States Championship. We also had Charlotte Flair defeat Alexa Bliss to retain the Raw Women's Championship, and the Uso beat Street Profits to retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. But what do you think about the decision to do that type of ending with the rope just breaking for the demon to be protected, Dutch?
You're asking me?
Yes.
But
would you have booked that?
Yeah,
would you have booked that?
I definitely want to hear your take on this.
Listen, when you book a match, I've always heard this, that you need to have a general finish in mind. I guarantee you, when they got in these creative sessions, they couldn't decide on a finish, and that somehow eked its way in there. Like the rope, and very, very, I think it was a bad finish, because I think you could just see the crowd and the viewers on TV just go, "Oh, come on, man, is that it?"
Thank you, because that's what I did.
And because here's a guy everything turns red, and then he starts humping the floor, and he gets up and he gets on the ropes, and all of a sudden, an immortal act like that can get rid of the demon. Well, hell, they should have known this 3 or 4 years ago. They could have beat him a lot. So I don't know. I don't get that at all. I mean, don't overthink it, because it went by, and they will never bring that back up. I guarantee it. But because that is a finish that I'm going to be on creative side. That's a finish that's, how you going to beat this guy? I mean, how you just can't do it, but that's believable. I mean, it's like wrestling's not is believable to start off with. So let's take a super alien human being, I guess, and just let just a little. Why did he just fall down the stairs? Why couldn't he done a Joe Biden and fell down the stairs and hurt himself? See what I mean? But but my God, at least I think if people would have understood that just as well. But I don't. I'm gonna have to go on record saying I didn't understand the finish and I didn't like the finish.
Totally understandable with the ridiculousness in that, but that's why I tried to make sense of it. That it was God. It was God.
Yeah,
it was divine.
I'll go on record
divine
and say that finish wasn't shit. Like I'm gonna go on record with that. That no.
So we're now we don't know what to do. So we're stealing the dark light, the red light now. And since we've crucified the other, talent that was on the show before, and we got rid of him, let's just use this red light somewhere else now. Let's just take the time. Where the demon has never used this light before. So let's just use this now. Since we have the budget, let's do that. But then now we turn the red lights off to make him appear like he's gonna, get up. But then he falls. Like, when did they have time to loosen up the rope?
There was a fan video of the camera guy. The camera guy was the one that cut the rope.
You can't even do it like clean.
Yo, and what makes it worse, right? So you have this resurrection resurrection of this its immortal being, as Dutch said, is humping the mat,
right?
And he's resurrected, kicking ass and taking names and doing all of that. And then when he goes up to the top and this damn thing snaps, his knee hurts now.
Like
this immortal being's knee hurts now. Now his knee's in pain, and he takes one hit, and then he's over. Then the match is over. Like, there's no sense in this whatsoever. Like this, when whatever happened, whether it's God, cameraman, people's, his knee hurts after falling off a rope after being resurrected from the dead.
Mind you, the match was actually good.
That's the annoying. That's what makes that.
It was
annoying.
A good. That's what makes it all annoying. Not great. They ruined a good match.
It was a damn good match. It was a good match. Roman was some of the best heel work of the season. Like wearing the mask and not wanting to breathe the same air as these puppets. Like it was great.
Protecting himself.
It was great stuff. Like and then they just deflate everything because.
It ruined.
I was happy. I was like, okay, this is kind of different with all of this, all the supernatural shit, and then they do that. It deflates everything that you just looked at. I was like, no, that's not really happening. He's really not about to lose because of this, and he lost.
Divine intervention, ladies and gentlemen. It works in mysterious ways. The show otherwise, besides that finish, was actually pretty good. But everybody will remember the finish. We also had last night AEW Rampage. You had Bryan Danielson defeat Nick Jackson in an outstanding match. You also had Jade Cargill beat Thunder Rosa and Nyla Rose in a 3-way match to continue her undefeated streak. Orange Cassidy defeated Jack Evans in a hair versus hair match. And AEW announced the participants for the Casino Ladder match this Wednesday on Dynamite's second anniversary show. It's going to be Jon Moxley, Miro, Orange Cassidy, Matt Hardy, Lance Archer, Andrade El Idolo, and a Joker. So the mysterious Joker card will appear. So we've been hearing people like Hangman Page, maybe Buddy Matthews, maybe another debut might be in this Casino Ladder match. But I do want to ask Dutch, you've been dealing with, because I talked to the Sportskeeda Wrestling powers that be and made us start watching AEW Rampage. What's been your biggest positive and your biggest negative about watching All Elite Wrestling?
Well, the biggest positive is it's new, and they have a clean slate in front of them. But that clean slate is being filled in. They're not immune to making mistakes too. Like last week, that 2-hour special, and I complained about it last week. Every match was kind of the same. I mean, and nobody really advanced. And Adam Cole was their newest addition. They didn't really even protect him that well. And this week did he beat Jungle Boy?
Yeah, he beat Jungle Boy on Dynamite.
But I guess it was a good match, but I don't know what that proves. Tell you the truth, I don't know, but I think AEW is running on just a star power right now. Is what they're running on, and how long can you just run on star power? And when it gets to, they have to really tell the story. Can they do that? They've been in business how long? 2 years.
Yes, 2 years.
And I think this pandemic may have helped them, to tell you the truth, because it made them like center on themselves instead of crowds and all this. But they need crowds. I got that. But it's still the jury is still out on AEW and whether they can bring numbers to the TV station and make money. They're making money right now because they have to with all the syndication money coming in. I'm sure, and I hear they're offering money comparable to what WWE is paying. So good for them, and it's great for the wrestler because now they have another place. If they're a quality wrestler, they have another place that they can go to. So, but if you look at WWE now, it looks like a lot like just a WWE roster. If you look at AEW right now.
It's getting boisterous with the size, definitely comparable to WWE as far as the amount of stars that they got. We also had AEW Dynamite this week. They did 1.152 million viewers this week, a 0.45 in the 18 to 49 demo. They were number one on cable again this week. One of the best episodes of the year, honestly, with the Brodie Lee tribute in Rochester, New York, main evented by Sammy Guevara, defeating God's favorite champion Miro to win the TNT championship in a special moment, the title that Brodie Lee most represents in the main event, and Sammy Guevara with a good babyface underdog win. Adam Cole defeated Jungle Boy, like we just mentioned, in an excellent opener to the show. You also had MJF was confronted by Darby Allin to set up a rivalry between two of the four pillars of AEW. Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson defeated Dante Martin and Matt Sydal in a good tag team match. But what took the story there was the post match with Arn Anderson cutting one hell of a promo, Dutch, where he had an analogy where he said that Cody is the type of guy that gets carjacked and he lets the person take his car and he says, "Please don't hurt me." While Arn Anderson is the type of person that when the guy tries to carjack them, he pulls out his Glock and he splatters his brains all over the pavement. So yes, we have this meme right here, Glock Anderson here, and Anna Jay and Tay Conti beat the Bunny and Penelope Ford.
There's a whole bunch of them. Oh, that's the best one. Yep, that's one of the best ones right there. They made
a video game stunt about this shit too, where they did the pro wrestling. Sorry,
I have
Fire Pro Wrestling. Yeah, with Glock Anderson pulling it out. Yes. Yeah. We also had Orange Cassidy and the Dark Order defeat the HFO in a 16-man tag team match.
Is he a no-limit soldier?
Yes, that gave us a great emotional moment with Brodie Lee Jr. as well as Amanda Huber, Mrs. Brodie Lee, reuniting the Dark Order after weeks of dissension. So great moment, great show from top to bottom. What was your thoughts on the show, Top Guy JJ?
It was a solid show, but
not great, but it's
I wasn't a fan.
I like that. It was a solid show.
I wasn't a fan of seeing like 42 guys in 3 matches. Like it was like the most convoluted, congested card in a long time for AEW. Now I get why, because they did the tribute to Brodie Lee. I get that. I get it. But they had like an 8-man tag followed by a 16-man tag with a tag match before that. I'm like, what the hell is all of this?
There wasn't an 8-man tag.
Whatever. It felt like I saw like 30 people in 3 matches. Like it was just so congested. I was like, this is much. This is too much. And then I love the ending because everybody knows I'm a big fan of Sammy Guevara. So the fact that I was super excited to see Sammy Guevara defeat Miro in a straight up match to become TNT champion. I mean, I was pulling for Sammy the entire time. I picked Sammy on every poll I was available. Sammy's my guy, but everything in between that was like, oof, I can't. This is not. And the show opened great with Adam Cole and Jungle Boy. That was one of the best openers AEW's had in a while. But I mean, obviously, we had Grand Slam. I consider that one of the greatest matches AEW's ever had. So it was a good opener, but yeah, too much shit in the middle for me. That just was like, I can't fuck with it this week.
Well, I'm just going by consensus. Consensus said it was one of the best shows of the year. I thought it was one of the best shows of the year. And Jimmy, who's the biggest critic of AEW, also agreed it was one of the better shows of the year. But everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm disappointed in Jimmy.
I'm not. I agree with him.
When Jimmy has, when Jimmy sees like 30,
Jimmy
people,
usually cuts ass, and he didn't cut ass in this episode.
Because there was nothing to cut ass about. It's a 16-man match because of the Dark Order. The Dark Order had their dissension build up for weeks, and they finally did the blow off. It was a wholesome moment. That's literally the only complaint he had about the show, because he doesn't like mushy stuff. So he didn't like the stuff with Brodie Lee and stuff like that. But
I didn't really think the episode was really a tribute, but that's just my opinion.
Well, the 16-man match was a tribute to Brodie Lee, as well as Tay Conti and Anna Jay getting the victory with Brodie Lee Jr. coming out at the end.
Look, man, my energy is always going to be the same when 30 people are in a wrestling ring. I don't care what it is. Battle Royal.
There wasn't 30 people in the wrestling ring.
That's what it feels like. You don't. That's what it. When you have all of these people, when you don't even see the ring and it's all surrounded by guys, it's just too much going on.
That's one match. It was literally one match.
An eyesore for me. It was a damn eyesore for me. And then it was like a big tag match before that too.
Dutch? I'm saying, you did the show. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let Dutch talk.
I didn't see the show. So nobody can say, you're an idiot, Dutch. You don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, I do agree. They used too many people. And it seems like, to me, it was like the other show, the 2-hour show was a mishmash. It like they had the whole city. Where were they, in Brooklyn or the Arthur Ashe Stadium?
Queens, yeah.
Queens.
Yeah, it looked like they had a bunch of street people in there too. They just walked in and got on camera. It's just too many people. What do you focus on?
I did agree with you there, because there was only one singles match on that Rampage Grand Slam. Like this, I don't agree with this with Dynamite, because they was just a 16-man tournament that had way too many people out there. But I do agree, Rampage Grand Slam had 4-on-4, a 2-on-2, a 3-on-3, another 2-on-2. That's too many. If one match has a lot of guys, I don't really mind that much. But we also missed WWE Raw, which did 1.7 million viewers. They had Big E defeat Bobby Lashley in a steel cage main event to retain the WWE Championship. Bobby Lashley also reunited with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin in the Hurt Business. Damian Priest.
For MVP to not to be there. Make it make sense, people.
MVP is injured. He just had knee surgery.
Okay, go ahead. Finish.
I'm just saying. You said it. Damian Priest beat Sheamus in a no DQ, no countout match to retain the United States Championship. AJ Styles beat Riddle in a very good encounter. And Charlotte Flair beat Doudrop to retain the Raw Women's Championship. Dutch, I know you are very close friends with Big E. What's your thoughts on Big E becoming the WWE Champion?
Well, it took him 10 years to get there. A lot of hard work, and I really, really like Big E, because he's the type of guy that will go out there and he'll work for it. And he's worked, and he's a great guy, easy to get along with, even when he disagrees with you. I mean, it's not a big contest, but he'll work with you, or not me, but his opponents. I've seen him do it, and he works for the match instead of for himself, and it paid off for him. I'm glad to see him in the position he's in right now. Couldn't have happened to a better guy or a more deserving guy. I like him a lot.
Absolutely. And Krssi, what was your thoughts on this week's Raw with Bobby Lashley and Big E's steel cage main event?
I thought it was really, really good. Again, my only issue was if MVP is injured, which he is, fine, great, understand it. Why did we break this faction up in the first place? Who advocated for not breaking them up to not put them back together while he's not champion? The whole I've been saying this all day. Make it make sense, people. Like, it's not making sense.
Krssi, have I ever told you you're my role model?
Truly Hill Romeo asking Dutch, can I ask, what does Dutch think about wrestlers threatening to murder each other, as Goldberg did this past Monday, saying that if he's lucky, he will kill Lashley? What do you think, Dutch?
Oh my God.
Oh, that is just too.
Christ.
Years ago, when I was young, I told a guy I was going to kill him. They stopped the interview. They said, "Don't say you're going to kill him." They said, "We don't need that." And everybody knows you're not going to kill him. Don't they have laws against killing people? I mean, you can't go out there and you can say, I will destroy you, or I will annihilate you, or take you apart. But that murdering people, that's a bad word anyway, and he shouldn't have used it, and I don't like it.
Why are we still making this the whole thing, though? Why is Goldberg still in the picture? Please.
Because Bobby Lashley attacked his son.
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm just giving the facts. That's what I'm here for. NXT 2.0 had Raquel Gonzalez beat Frankie Monet to retain the NXT Women's Championship. She was then attacked by Toxic Attraction with Mandy Rose standing tall. You also had the Index Honeymoon with Dexter Lumis having a lot of protection. That's all I have to say about NXT. Impact on Access TV had Eddie Edwards defeat W. Morrissey in a street fight main event. After the match, Moose destroyed Eddie Edwards with the steel chair several times, while Morrissey held his wife Alicia to watch his destruction. You also had Christopher Daniels make his return to Impact Wrestling in ring return against Madman Fulton, and Trey Miguel defeated Alex Zane and Laredo Kid in a fun opener to advance in the X Division tournament. Question for you, Dutch. How was what was the kind of your overall, what do you think your biggest contribution was to your time in Impact Wrestling when you were a part of creative?
The girls division. I created that. Nobody else wanted them.
Nice.
Vince Russo didn't want them. Jeff Jarrett didn't want them. I said, guys, what's the deal? And they kept saying, well, can we get enough girls? I said, well, there's 300 million people in the country, and 150 million of them are women. I think we could find 12 that we could put on the show, and they never agreed to it. And I said, what's it going to hurt? I said, if we don't listen, I said, guys, we're not marrying them. We're not getting married. We're just dating them. And if we don't like them, don't bring them back. And then after we started using them, I brought Kong in, which was one of the most amazing talents I've ever seen. Yes. And I said, don't you go off your feet. I used the Abdullah the Butcher analogy with her. Not just anybody, not a 125-pound girl is going to knock you down. Right. Do not go off your feet. And she got over. And then the girls, every time we had a girls segment on Impact TV, it was always one of the, if not the top one, the next to it. Gail Kim and Kong, when we put them in a main event, we were 10 years ahead of WWE at the time. When we put them in the main event, they did a 1.45. If it had been a 4.6, it would have been a 3.5, which was the highest rating ever at Impact. Awesome. And they did their job, and I think the girls division was the best. That's why a lot of people watched it, because of just the girls division, I think.
I agree. Awesome Kong and Gail Kim was like one of the best women's rivalries of all time. Yep. So thank you for that, Dutch.
Absolutely. Props to you for keeping they did the work. For resurrecting that division with us to now be one of the best in Impact Wrestling right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, and I was trying to sell an all-girl show at the time. And I was talking to one of the top guys at Spike at the time. It's Paramount now. And he said, do you think a girl show would go? I said, brother, they keep talking about this elusive 18 to 32 year old male market. I said, don't you think the quickest fastest way to get that market is to have 18 to maybe 25-year-old half-naked females on TV. Don't you think they would watch that? I mean, that's what that would be the first thing I'd think of. But you do girls wrestling with purpose. You have angles and you have titles, and you do it just like a guy's show, except you just do it with women. And that's what I hate about WWE. A lot of those girls' matches are very short. They might go 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's just to say, I don't know, maybe that's to say, well, we're diversified. It's our diversity addition to everything that's going on. They'll put them on, but they won't put them on as long as they should have. Because some of those girls are very talented. So if I was WWE, I wouldn't overlook that.
Yeah, they do a lot, and it's definitely better than what it used to be in WWE, but they can definitely do more. And what they did in TNA with you in charge with the women's division kind of was the predecessor to what they went on to do in WWE. We got WWE news to go over. Fightful Select released a detailed report about the relationship between WWE and the USA Network. With the WWE draft looming, talent was not clued in too much. WWE sources did confirm to Fightful weeks ago that they were working with both Fox and USA Network directly to make sure all parties were satisfied. It's actually been reported that Fox requested Charlotte Flair to be on SmackDown. As far as the USA side of the WWE deal, contacts at USA did express counter concerns, so to speak, to some at Fox being under the impression that their platform was used to promote Peacock so heavily. A source that Fightful spoke to at the USA Network pointed to the Hell in a Cell matches that both aired on Fox and USA Network surrounding the pay-per-view as a look at some of the posturing between the two networks. NXT was also a point heavily talked about. Andrew Zarian of the Madman podcast collaborated with Fightful for the story and noted that he'd heard that USA Network responded favorably to NXT 2.0 and many of the changes put forward. Another person that works at USA Network pointed out the massive jump in viewership for NXT 2.0. Other positives mentioned by USA Network included the NXT 2.0 opening segment with Braun Breaker. They like to focus on the wedding and the Diamond Mine and the NXT title match. And the idea that USA Network doesn't keep tags on what is going on was voided, as those we Fightful spoke to were familiar with Tommaso Ciampa and very happy that he became the NXT champion. In regards to WWE's relationship, the sources that Fightful spoke to connected to USA Network and brought up the fact that the company's relationship together extends well before many of the employees were even born, and most are well versed in the long-term connection between the two parties. USA sources said that the declining viewership as compared to the start of the deal when the competition wasn't waned to that degree is something that they've like to be addressed, and they don't like the whole scapegoats and shortcuts that WWE was doing in the past, like the turning out the lights, the brand switching rules, Raw Underground, and running commercials during matches, or not running commercials through matches, and the 2 out of 3 falls. They want innovations and not scapegoats. And Stephanie McMahon actually had a big meeting over the summer with NBC Universal's Mark Zanos, and they had a one-on-one discussion about what's going on between the two parties. But Dutch, to ask you, since you've been in the inner workings, how involved are the networks in how these companies are run, and who is pushed and promoted the most in the business?
Well, I don't know the inner workings that much because I was not involved in that. But I'm assuming that they are pretty well tuned in to what's going on, and they want to be notified when a big change is going to be made, or even a title change is going to be made. I don't know what qualifies one of their. They just go by ratings. That's all they can go about. They don't care about what the scheme is in creative or who they're pushing. They can tell you this segment did this, and they can give you minute by minute segments. And if you look back, you can tell who the people are watching. So, but they're I'm guessing. I don't know, but I'm sure they're tuned in very intently on what's going on.
Yeah, they seem to have more control about what's going on more than ever before. So it's an interesting time to be in wrestling for sure. We also got a little news from the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the top picks were actually informed of ahead of time to Fox and USA Network, and the plans for the draft are not set in stone for what's going to go on Monday Night Raw. One of the quotes said, "We've been told NXT looks to be a big part of the draft, but that can change in a moment's notice. It's believed that Dakota Kai, Aaliyah, and Xia Li are the leading candidates for getting called up for the women's roster from NXT, and they were brought up a couple of weeks back for dark matches." Fightful Select added that not even names in talent relations knew of how things were going to go as of Wednesday. As of Thursday, talent weren't told what the format of the show would be, and like we kind of addressed when we talked about SmackDown, we don't know either. So if talent don't know, we definitely shouldn't be knowing. And Fightful adds that the top names,
because they don't know. Because I've said this before, and it's been well documented that Vince can come in at whatever time he comes in, at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and they go over the show, and he don't like it. They'll rewrite the show, literally rewrite the whole show on site, and maybe start at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that's what they do. Because if he doesn't like it, if he's in a mood, he'll just rewrite the whole show, and he can do that. He's the boss.
Yeah, exactly. At a moment's notice, it could change, and that's how like Vince has been for years. And we even said that with when Rick said yesterday that they're not going to split up couples, but he could change his mind with that in a moment's notice. According to a report by wokeculture.com, WWE is planning to run a major pay-per-view event in the UK later next year. The event is said to be targeted for September 2022 at a stadium venue, with the hopes that it could draw a possible attendance of 90,000 people. Additionally, the report noted that the venues that could hold up are Manchester's Old Trafford, Wales Principality Stadium, and London's new Wembley Stadium that opened in 2007. Additionally, August 29th, 2022 will mark the 30th anniversary of WWE SummerSlam 1992 at Wembley Stadium. And then Dave Meltzer addressed the rumors of a UK stadium or possibly Wembley event, and he says that there has certainly been talks. And then our very own friend Alex McCarthy of Talk Sports reports that WWE hosting SummerSlam in the UK is in the works, with Cardiff's Principality Stadium as the current front runner to hold the event. According to McCarthy, both parties have been working on it for months, though nothing has been finalized, despite Principality Stadium being WWE's preferred venue. What's your thoughts, Krssi Love, on SummerSlam potentially coming to the UK next year?
Well deserved. It should go there, especially with that anniversary. I mean, if you want a big event and you want it to be big, as like the last one, definitely should do it for sure.
Yeah, I think it would mark a huge event, and they always do well in the UK.
Exactly, and I'm sure that especially, hopefully, like the pandemic will hopefully be trickling down a little bit, where we can have a little bit more cushion or room to like move around more. And I think they would love for them to come over there and do that big stadium and draw the crowd. But hell, we'll have more people from over here be able to fly over there and see that show in that type of atmosphere.
Yeah. And they definitely always bring a interesting and unique atmosphere. Dutch, do you have any stories of working in the UK, and what's like been your best crowd that you've been in front of over there?
Well, when I was over there, that was during their downtime, so they were kind of full, but you could still see seats. So what surprised me about England is their breakfast. That's what I noticed. They serve baked beans for breakfast. I said, what is the hell is this? Baked beans for breakfast? And that's what they do. I really enjoyed my time in England. I didn't like London too much because it's too crowded. But Wales is beautiful. Ireland is beautiful. Scotland is beautiful. the most beautiful place over there in Europe I found was France, out in the country in France. Beautiful.
Yeah.
One time, one story, we had an afternoon show, a night show, and or maybe, but I was in 3 towns. I was in Spain, France, and Italy, all in the same day. Worked all of them in the same day. So, and you would fly in on that private plane and do the show, fly to the next one, do it, and fly to the next one. So, but I enjoyed my time there.
Always loud over there, and always a great crowd. So it should be interesting if we're going to get a pay-per-view finally back in the UK next year. According to Wrestling Inc., Alexa Bliss is supposed to be taking time off from television. It's unknown when or why that will happen, but per a report from PW Insider, it seems that she's been written off and scheduled to undergo sinus surgery. It's unknown exactly how long she is expected to be out, but that's kind of what the angle was at the end of Extreme Rules match, where Lily was torn apart. It was to kind of write her off for a few months. What's been your thoughts on the Alexa Bliss character, and what do you think about her taking time off, Top Guy JJ?
The Alexa Bliss character, I'm not really the biggest fan of it. Obviously, a complete plug of another guy that we can't wait to see back on TV again. But her dialogue with Charlotte over the past couple of weeks, I enjoyed. It was okay. Sinus surgery, that's about, if that's true, that's like 3 to 4 months that she's going to be away easily, because usually that's a 12-week surgery. So because that shit requires you got to be face planted on the ground. You got to be looking straight. Your head got to be implanted for hours at a time. Yeah, she's not going to be ready for any ring competition anytime soon if that's the case.
Yeah, it's very interesting that this is the time that she chooses to get written off, as the WWE draft. The rosters are being shuffled around, but some time off would definitely benefit her at this point.
But
because
if she does it at this point, she would be back for WrestleMania season. So that's probably the idea.
Yeah, but it's a good time for the character, because the character was very divisive among fans. We got to send a congratulations to WWE superstar Toni Storm on her engagement to New Japan star Juice Robinson. Also, Fightful Select has a new report with new details on plans WWE was making for Adam Cole. Apparently, they had an idea. We've heard the report that creative pitch for Cole to work as a heel manager for Keith Lee. However, Cole never heard that, but according to Fightful's report, it's not uncommon for pitches like that one not to make it to talent. One pitch that Fightful reports did make it to Cole was to have him cut his hair and to give him a new look for Raw or SmackDown. Cole reportedly made it clear to WWE officials that he wasn't interested in cutting his hair for WWE TV. The pitch was not made again to Cole.
Put his foot down.
Additionally,
cut my hair. Who am I, Baron Corbin? What the hell is this? That's retarded to me.
Additionally, WWE sources reportedly had high praise for Cole for his transparency on what he did and didn't like from creative standpoint, along with how he dealt with his WWE exit. And he talked about telling Shawn Michaels and Triple H he was going to AEW when he spoke to Renee Paquette recently. Dutch Mantell, what is the biggest creative pitch that they gave you that never made it to air, whether your first run with WWF or your last run with We the People?
They didn't have a lot of creative pitches for me. They didn't give me anything, to tell you the truth. I had to, when I was doing Zeb Coulter, not the Uncle Zeb, they didn't understand the character, I don't think.
No.
So I lead the way and said, I think the guy would do this. Well, and according to what Vince says, but some pitches you never hear about. And they had one pitch they wanted me to do. One time they wanted me to do a pitch that I didn't want to do. And it wasn't about the immigrants. It was about something else, but it was a touchy subject. I said, I need to leave that alone. Well, Vince wants you to do it. So I went out there and did it under the caveat. You like that word? Caveat?
Yes.
Under the caveat that if it didn't get over, they'd take it out. Well, it didn't get over. and it never made it to TV. And I come back and I said, well, I told you. See, they thought Zeb Coulter was going to be a super heel, and people were going to hate me. And I didn't tell them. I said, I don't think they're going to hate me that much. But you got to watch what you say, because they may not like what you say. I said, well, I'll do it. So I went out there. I could tell the first night my first night was in Nashville, where the people know me. So, and I could tell it got over, and the people liked it, but I don't think they hated me. And I don't think they hated me anywhere else. They did hate me in Mexico, though. They hated me in Mexico, and they hated me on the border. Kind of hated me. So one guy, I was standing outside the ring, and it was way South Texas, right on the border. And some guy said, "Zeb, go to you, SOB, I'm going to kill you." And you don't ever see WWE fans saying that. So I went to the back, and I told the security guy, I said, "Man, you need to be out here with me." And I told him what he said. He said, he ain't going to do nothing. I said, "Brother, please, I'm trying to tell you, if I get hurt out there, you're the first one I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue the company and you." So then he went out there the next night, and they were doing it. One guy wanted to come over the railing at me. So if he'd have come over the railing with me, he could have beat the crap out of me. Jack may have helped me. But then when the guy heard him, he said, "Yeah, you're right." He said, "I've never heard him that way." I said, "Well, I'm just trying to tell you." But you got to watch that heat. And when you talk about, and all of y'all have heard heat.
Yeah,
but heat in the olden days was real. They would attack you. Now it's more or less, kids and stuff, they won't do it too much. But back in the old days, and you can tell when people were serious, or sometimes you wouldn't know it till they right on top of you. So it was a kind of taking your health in your hands sometimes when you went to the ring, especially in Puerto Rico and down south. Crazy.
A follow-up question for that that actually comes from our friend Pat. What were kind of to put the two things together as far as like pitches, and then the Mexicans, you had your whole alliance with Alberto Del Rio, which was Mex America. What was supposed to be the plan there when they put you guys together?
It was Vince's idea. It never made sense to me because I didn't tell him it didn't make sense. But Alberto Del Rio I hated him. So all of a sudden I disappear, and then he comes back and we're together. Made absolutely no sense. So I tried to put some sense to it to let it look like that me and Jack were working this big scam to get even with Alberto Del Rio, but they didn't want to hear it. And then I heard one day, well, they're going to write you off TV, and we're going to figure out something. But by that time it was kind of too late. Jack had went somewhere else, or he was going another deal, and they figured it was too late to put us back together. So, and this was 2016, and I finished up there, and I went to work with TNA Wrestling from then on out. So, see, not every idea they give you is going to work, and especially when they get away from that original idea, and then try to piece it back together, they just didn't want to do it, I guess, and they didn't.
Yeah, I was very confused with that. I was hoping that it was a long con with you and Jack Swagger working together.
And they looked at me like I'd spit on the Pope or something. Don't make sense to them, Like Krssi says, make it make sense. I was trying to make it make sense. They didn't want to hear it.
I think they do that a lot now. They don't want to make it make
sense. Appreciate your brutal honesty on that angle there, sir.
We got AEW news. AEW has announced the formation of a nonprofit that will honor the late great John Huber, aka Brodie Lee. The company announced on Wednesday that the Amanda and Chris Huber, the wife and brother of the late Brodie Lee, has created the John Huber Legacy Foundation, which will provide support to people in creative fields who have not taken the next step in their career because of family obligations. The foundation will select a group of creative individuals starting in 2022 to support with resources, connections, and practical skills and direct funding. So that's great to hear AEW working with them, as well as with the Owen Hart Foundation, as we talked about last week. Any thoughts on that, Dutch, and any stories about Brodie Lee?
Yeah, but what does that mean? We're going to help people in creative positions who couldn't proceed because of family. I don't even know what that means.
I think it's mainly like, you know, a mother who was like in some type of field that had a baby and had to like take some time off and couldn't complete her schooling, or you know, so along those lines, like, or like someone who was in a creative field that, you know, their parents got sick and they had to stop in their pursuit of that career, stuff like that.
I think the wording could have been better, to tell you the truth.
Yes.
When you read it and you say, like I did, what does that mean? I mean, it can't be sick, can't be cancer, can't be tuberculosis or something else, because everybody understands that. But I don't know. I hope it's successful. I really do.
Any stories or memories of Brodie Lee from your time together?
No, he was see, there's certain guys that you get to know. I didn't travel with Brodie, and I didn't travel with those guys. I did most of my traveling with Jack, so I didn't really get to know him. And since I don't drink and I don't party, and I'm hell older than water, I didn't go out to bars, so I didn't really know him that well. I just met him at, like Krssi, she mentioned, in catering. I just talked to him in catering, and I've explained that he did sit down with me one day and he said, I just want to pick your brain. And we talked for a while, and I gave him some suggestions, maybe here or there, and he either used them or he didn't. I said, but I think it might help you. And I gave him ideas that I thought might help him. But of course, he's got to clear that with the producers and all this. And he was new there too. So a lot of young talent, they don't push their boundaries much. And they just go with what they give them. And that's why sometimes you just see things that you just don't understand, because the talent doesn't really respond back in a negative way. They just go do it. Because if you kind of refuse, or you have a negative attitude about something, that goes back to the boss, and it could be not a good entry point, could be an exit point. Because they don't want to hear no, they want to hear go and do it. I don't blame them in some ways, but if a guy's got a good point, you need to hear him out. But a guy can't not really have a good point when he's green, when he's new. So you just got to go, and they call it run the play. We call the play, run the play. Okay. It's almost, if you break it down to football, you say 32 power right on 2. The left guard says, no, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. Wait a minute. Just run the play is all we asking you to do. So that's what you do.
Before we're gonna wrap things up with a couple of late news notes. I know Krssi Love, you gotta run, you got a family obligation, so please let the people know where they can find you.
Well, first of all, very much of a wonderful meeting you, Mr. Dutch. I wish I had more time with you, but it was a pleasure. I'm sure you'll be back again. But other than that, guys, you can follow me on IG and Twitter. I am here. It is Krssi Love _ just Miss Krssi Love. You can catch me every Saturday with my good brothers here on True Hill Heat, and with my good brother on Fridays for our Dark Side of the Ring review. I was just on the Tuesday night of NXT show with the boys for the ladies night episode, which was not really a ladies night, but whatever. But I had a great time with them. We had a great time. I will be back again with them again. Other than that, you can just hit me up, but that's where you can find me.
Thank you as always, Krssi. And I know Dutch was happy to see you, because you made him looking at the screen this long very enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Krssi.
Nice meeting you as well. Bye, guys. See you later.
Bye, Krssi. Our final AEW notes, we got former Dallas Mavericks player Satnam and Singh has signed with the company, and he will be training at the Nightmare Factory. They also have signed a full-time contract for Lio Rush, who did a debut vignette, the LBO Leo being an investor. You also had Wrestling Observer newsletter report that Kiera Hogan's deal with AEW is a per-date deal. So when you see the All Elite, this person is All Elite, like we saw with Lio Rush, that means they signed a full-time deal, but there's other people like Kira Hogan that are on per-date deals. Bobby Fish is going to be versing Sammy Guevara this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite for the TNT Championship. The Young Bucks have said they want trios titles, and then Bray Wyatt, a lot of rumors were that he was going to debut in Rochester for the Brodie Lee tribute show, but among the people that Wrestling Observer and Fightful Select spoke to, that wasn't the plan for this week. And then transitioning from that to Impact news, Bryan Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live said that the impression he has got is that Bray Wyatt is signing with Impact Wrestling instead of AEW. He said, of course, Alvarez notes that Wyatt hasn't officially signed with Impact Wrestling yet, so he could change his mind and sign with AEW, but the expectation is that he will sign with Impact. He said, and I quote, "I mentioned weeks ago that I do not believe that the former Bray Wyatt is going to AEW. If you ask me, this is not confirmed because nothing is confirmed until somebody signs somewhere. The impression I have is that he is most likely to be going to Impact Wrestling." Top Guy JJ, what do you think about Bray Wyatt going with Impact instead of AEW right now?
I love the move for now. I love the move for now because there's so much going on in AEW. Just to pile on another debut on top of that is it not overkill, but it's going to be like, what now? After he debuts, what now? Because it's kind of like they're barely finding room for these guys in 3 hours a week. So another superstar, I love the move for now. Let him spend some time over there, resurrect himself over there, and then make the move when the time is right. But right now, the time isn't right. So very happy if this is actually the thing that's happening.
And Dutch, what do you think about Impact potentially signing Bray Wyatt? And do you think that's the best move for his career?
Well, like he just said, that they just had those big moves and additions, and then if you just throw one right on top of it, then how are you going to top the last one? And you just can't continue like that. I think it is good that he's going to Impact. Then he has a chance to. And I don't know what he's going to do. It's going to be what he wants to do. So it'll give him a chance to work on his character, work on his gimmick. And then when he goes to AEW later on, which I'm sure he'll go in a year or two, they're working together anyway.
Yeah.
So him going to, it's not like AEW is completely out. He's still available to make pay-per-views or to make TV. I mean, they could probably just call him up at any time. But I think it's a good thing. It'll help Impact. Impact needs help. It'll help them, and it'll help. And it won't hurt AEW, but it will help Impact
for sure. And Impact has actually getting a new championship, the Digital Media Championship, as announced on Thursday's edition of Impact Wrestling. Probably the worst name for a title that I've ever heard, but it kind of looks like the AEW World title.
There's a circuit board. That's a circuit board title.
Oh my! The digital,
that is atrocious.
I don't.
The design is not bad. The plates, but everything inside the plate is atrocious.
Bathroom title. It'd be the same. I don't get it. I don't.
Circuit board.
It's going to be defended on like social media, pretty much. And then New Japan news, the leaders in the G1 Climax 31 right now. Block A, you got Zack Sabre Jr. is 4-0 with 8 points. You also got B Block has a tie up top with Jeff Cobb and Kazuchika Okada at 4-0 with 8 points apiece. TJP turned heel and joined Will Ospreay's United Empire stable during the last New Japan Pro Wrestling tapings. You also got New Japan announced that Arya Daivari will be debuting with New Japan Pro Wrestling on their next set of shows in Philadelphia. And then our other wrestling notes, Trish Adora has officially signed with ROH full-time, so congratulations to her. And the former Braun Strowman, Adam Shearer, is joining NBC Sports with a new gig as an analyst for the Mr. Olympia Power Arm Wrestling Championships. The former Braun Strowman took to Twitter to announce that he is an analyst full-time for the event, and which takes place on October 8th and 9th in Orlando. And prior to joining WWE, Shera was a competitor to strongman competitions. So it makes sense. And he's going to make his wrestling return at Free the Narrative 2 this weekend on Fight TV. So we're wrapping things up on this edition of True Heel Heat. We want to thank Dutch Mantell for joining us. Top Guy JJ, do you have a final question for Dutch before we wrap things up here?
I have a question, but actually a favor, if possible. If you could just indulge us with the final words of such a smart man, well, can I hold my hand over my chest and can
Yes. Hey, we used to do that. I used to love it. Everybody would, whether they like me or not, they'd always stand up.
Yes.
And I'd say, "All real Americans to please rise. Put their hand over their chest and in a loud, clear voice, say along with me, we the people."
We the people.
You got it.
Yes. In a loud, clear voice.
One time, and they all stood up. So the next night I said, I want every real Englishman to please rise. Put your hand over your heart and say, "Long live the Queen." The place exploded. So nobody knew I was going to do that except Jack. But I was a heel and I got a big cheer pop.
So I have one final question for you, Dutch. If you've been up and down the road, you've been for every promotion.
You know you're interfering with my football time. You know that.
I know. That's why we're wrapping up. But I wanted to ask you, what is the best rib that has been done to you or you done to somebody else during your time in wrestling?
The best rib, I'd have to think about it. But I think one of the best ribs that scared me the worst, I was first breaking in. And I went after my match, I went down to the dressing room and I was sitting down and two guys got in an argument. And one of them said, "Didn't I tell you to stay out of my bag?" And it was a Japanese guy, and they were talking back and forth. And he said, "I told you the next time I did that." And he pulled a gun out and he aimed it at the guy. He said, "I told you." Somebody lit a firecracker and threw it under my seat. And right when he pointed that gun, it went off. I swear to God, I almost hit the roof. It scared the living crap out of me. Of course, everybody loved it except me. But that was probably one of the actually most dramatic ribs ever pulled on me. You don't ever see a gun.
Can only imagine.
He hit the guy, and then the firecracker went off. I thought he'd shot him. Oh my God. Awesome. Wasn't funny then. So, and I may have said more, but the guy had a gun, so I didn't say anything. I just relieved that it was a rib. It's crazy.
At least it was a rib because they could be dangerous.
I didn't know any of them. Hell, they may be crazy like that. I said, "What the hell have I gotten into here?" They're shooting each other in the dressing room. So, anyway.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Dutch, for joining us on True Heel Heat 145. Please let the people know where they can find you on social media and everything you're doing. And of course, plug that book that you talked about earlier.
Well, you can find me. I got my website back up and running. The space landing couldn't have been as complicated as this damn website. But anyway, DirtyDutchMantell.com, and you can read some of my stories in there. And I'm doing stories on Facebook now. It's called, Story Time. And it's just Dutch Mantell on Facebook. And you can email me, dirtydutchmantell@gmail.com. And I usually get back to everybody who emails me. So I think I owe that to you just for being a fan of wrestling and being a fan of mine. So if you want to get in contact with me, do that.
Great stuff. And go get his book because like you heard on True Heel Heat 145, this man had stories for days. And we didn't even get to everything that he could have talked about. So visit that website, dirtydutchmantell.com. And thank you so much, Dutch, for not only being a great wrestling legend, a Hall of Famer, historian yourself, but for being a good friend and coming on this edition of True Heel Heat. Greatly appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Top Guy JJ, please let the people know where they can find you, sir.
On Instagram, you can find me at TrueHill_Top Guy JJ, and every single Saturday right here on True Hill Heat with SP3 and the beautiful Miss Krssi Love. And I just want to take the absolute time to really thank you, Dutch, for taking the time. I know you got probably things going on, probably quite a few things going on. Take some time to talk to us, talk to the True Hills. Really appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you.
And you can find me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. Of course, you want to give this video a thumbs up, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified, because we always go live with our flagship podcast every single Saturday. And Dutch, you may want to watch next week, because we have someone that might bury you next week on True Hill Heat 146. Our special guest is none other than the legend himself, the legendary manager, the former manager of John Cena, Kenny Bolin, will be our special guest.
Hey, Kenny is a trip, believe me. So, look at him.
Oh my God, this guy is something else.
That's a face just by looking at it. So you know who I thought was going to happen next week? Our buddy Rick Uccio. Is that the way you say his name? Uccio?
Uchino.
Oh, Uchino. Look at him. That's another face you want to punch. Just punch him out right away. Anyway, we love you, Rick, I guess. I'm just saying that. But, hey, enjoyed the show, guys. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes. Great time. And as always, guys, remember to like, share, comment, share, subscribe. And for Dutch Mantell, for Miss Krssi Love, for Top Guy JJ, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been True Hill Heat 145, the holy heel turn. Thank you so much, Dutch Mantell. We are signing off until next time.
Peace out.